Video game adaptations for the big screen appear to be all the rage these days, and Sony has been the company leading the charge. Well, recently we got word that Sony is in talks to make a film adaptation for their hit game Days Gone, and apparently Sam Heughan is in early talks to play the lead. In today's video, we are going to be going over the whole story and what we can expect from this film. Sam Heughan may be bringing the next video game protagonist to life. Unless you have been living under a rock for the past few years, you probably know that Sony finally released their film adaptation of Uncharted, starring Tom Holland as Nathan Drake. While the film lived in development hell for quite a few years, losing directors and producers like flies, the film did end up raking in an astounding $401 million worldwide, proving that fans are more than willing to see their favorite video games brought to life from a different perspective on the big screen. Sony has been cashing in on their video game properties for a while now, with The Last of Us getting a TV adaptation over on HBO Max, and Twisted Metal getting a film over on Peacock. The video game adaptation game has never been more prevalent. That has sparked Sony to try and cash in on one of their biggest hits from 2019, Days Gone. The survival horror action game saw players play as outlaw/survivor Deacon St. John, as he scoured the wasteland on his motorcycle in search of his previously assumed dead wife. While this sounds like another generic, run-of-the-mill zombie survival game, the story actually had some great moments that could translate well to a film. But what we think would make this film amazing is the rumored casting choice for Deacon, Sam Heughan. Heughan is best known for his role on the hit show Outlander, in which his character Jamie is not that unlike Deacon. However, it is pretty clear that Heughan is the frontrunner for this role for more than just his acting skills. He just so happens to look exactly like Deacon's character model in the game. Sure, Deacon has black hair and Heughan has brown, but I'm sure a little hair dye will fix that right up. Moreover, it is easy to see the grizzled and dirty look that Deacon rolls with throughout the game on Heughan, as he literally uses pretty much the same look for his role on Outlander. While nothing is confirmed right now and the movie is still in its early stages, we do know that Sony has appreciated Heughan on the possibility of playing the role of Deacon. And if this film does get the green light, he will be the first to be receiving a phone call. Will this film ever get out of the pre-production stage? As of this recording, we don't know that much about this film. Obviously, it will be a truthful retelling of the 2019 third-person game, with its own twist on the story, I'm sure. However, that was the same thing that was said for Uncharted, and that film was stuck in the pre-production stage for almost 15 years. While it is good to hear that the Days Gone project already has an Oscar-nominated writer signed on for the project, as well as a solid cast of producers. The writer in question is none other than X-Men First Class and up-in-the-air writer Sheldon Turner, who will also be acting as one of the producers for this film. The other producers already signed on are Jennifer Quine, Asad Kazilbash, and Carter Swan. As encouraging as this might sound, Uncharted had all of this and more when it was first trying to get off the ground as well. And yet, it didn't matter. The film just couldn't get the ball rolling with countless rewrites and production issues that led to people pulling out of the project. It looked like things were never going to get done, and it was incredibly frustrating for both fans and Sony. One thing that made it difficult for the first Uncharted film to get off the ground was that the first film was being written when the third game had yet to come out, meaning that the story was far from over. The writers wanted to ensure that their film didn't mess up the future of the franchise. Thus, it was sent through vigorous rewrites as the years passed, and the additional third and fourth games came out. But now that the franchise is done, the filmmakers know the entire story from beginning to end, thus making the first film finally able to come out. I mentioned all of this because the Days Gone series did have talks of a sequel to the original game, which may put this film's future in a tough spot, unless Sony wants to make a complete shot-for-shot remake of the first game, which would be less than ideal for fans and Sony. They may have to wait for the second game to come out before making this movie, but neither the second game nor the first film is greenlit as of this recording. However, with the first game selling well over 9 million units during its shelf life, I would say that it is safe to assume that both of these things will become reality in the future. What was the first game about, and will it make for a good film? What made Uncharted such a strong candidate to be made into a film from a video game was its incredibly strong story elements. Uncharted thrived on the fact that the gameplay was almost secondary to the amazing story that it wanted to tell. And that can also be said for other games that are getting or have already gotten a film or TV adaptation, like The Last of Us, God of War, and The Witcher. But can the same be said for Days Gone? While the story was very entertaining to play through, I hesitate to praise its story. The story has a few really great twists towards the end of the game, and does end on a potential cliffhanger that will likely be the reason we have a second Days Gone game. However, the story is very fetched and questy, in the sense that the player is just chasing something or trying to track something down the entire game, with no real sense of urgency. The game primarily wants the player to explore the open world and upgrade their player and their motorcycle, rather than want to finish the story. There are very few story moments that leave you feeling like you just watched a film scene, like in other story-driven games like Uncharted, The Last of Us, or God of War. Moreover, a great deal of this game's gameplay is driving on a motorcycle from point A to point B, or evading a large horde of freakers. But that cannot be what the entire film is. Part of what makes those things fun in a video game is the fact that the player gets to control the motorcycle, and the player gets to actually fight off the freakers. But in a film and entire movie that is just some guy driving a motorcycle and running from a huge horde of zombie-like creatures would be borderline unwatchable. However, if the game focuses on Deacon's grief of losing Sarah, and the subsequent urgency and desperation he experiences when he attempts to find her, this could be a great film. With a few additional twists and turns that we don't see in the original game, this could make for a pretty fantastic film. But it is not exactly encouraging when you hear that the game's original script has to undergo a full transformation in order to be a watchable movie. But if that is what it takes, I am here for it. Speaking of transformations, potential star for the Days Gone film, Sam Heughan, underwent a transformation of his own that he recently showcased on his Instagram, and fans were stunned when they saw it. What did Sam Heughan do that had fans stunned? As we mentioned before, Sam Heughan is likely to land the role of Deacon St. John in the upcoming Days Gone film adaptation, and that is because he and the game's protagonist look very similar to each other. And a contributing factor to this similar likeness came from the fact that they both have long hair. Well, recently, Sam Heughan shocked his fan base by revealing that he chopped off all of his hair. He isn't quite bald, but he is pretty close, and yet he still looks amazing. He cut his hair while preparing to hike through the entirety of Scotland, the home of his ancestors, in order to promote his memoir, which is set to release on October 25th, 2022. Fans were surprised to see that he cut off all of his hair, but I'm sure having a whole lot of loose hair is less than ideal when one is trying to hike the entirety of Scotland. Nonetheless, fans were loving the new look, but even if they weren't, I'm certain his signature long hair look will return sometime in the future, especially when he gets the call saying that he will officially be playing the role of Deacon St. John in the Days Gone film adaptation. That's all we have for you guys today on the channel. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed the content, and we will catch you all in the next video.